Don't hang up that phone. We've found what you're looking for. Welcome to the Let's Talk Cabling Podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you gotta ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Welcome to 6 o'clock After Hours Live. Ask Chuck Bowser, RCDD, your questions about installation, certification, estimation, project management, and career path. Yes. And I'm going to answer this right here, right out of the gate. Somebody on TikTok asked me, what's my opinion of Donald Trump? That's not what this show's about. It's not. My opinion about Donald Trump is none of your business. And my opinion about Biden is none of your business. So there you go. I don't do politics on this show. And I'm sorry, I don't do... Hello. Hold on. Don't you hate when that happens? Dang it. I just broke my TikTok. All right, let's try this again. Don't you hate when that happens, people? This is live. This is what happens when you go live. Things like that happen. Yes, resume live. Hopefully you did it right. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. So, first things first, as you know, this show has a cadence to it. There's certain things that we always do, right? And the first thing that we always do is, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? Not drinking anything yet there on TikTok. I am drinking Zevia Ginger Ale. Zevia Ginger Ale. Ah, yes. Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see. What's people drinking here? Nobody's drinking anything on TikTok. Check the chat box. Nobody has put anything in the chat box yet. So we do have a bunch of questions that I got about 5 or 6 questions that people submitted in advance. So I'm going to go through those and hopefully I'll have time for more. So if you have a question, put it in the chat box. If I don't get to it tonight, I will get to it next week. Oh, actually, not next week. I got a special announcement about next week. So hold on one second. So Shotzi's in the house. What? Shotzi's drinking water? Water? What? Not Diet Dr. Pepper? What's up with that? Look at this. Carlos is in the house. Carlos, how you doing, my friend? I haven't seen you in a while. He's drinking an IPA, right? And here's another one. Don't drink plasma. Can't donate plasma while watching. Okay, I got a funny story about donating and drinking. Maybe if I get to it, I'll get to it. But there you go. So that's what first thing is what you're drinking. Now, also, don't forget that I do have other channels, right? I have a LinkedIn channel. I have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So make sure you check out that QR code right there, and you'll go to my link tree. You can access all of those. You can actually send me emails. You can even buy me a cup of coffee. If you buy me a cup of coffee, I will send you a set of Knowledge is Power stickers and also a podcast sticker. So if you go to the thing, I will send you stickers. And I do know that I owe some people some stickers. I'm going to go to the post office tomorrow and try to get those out there. So that way you guys do indeed have them. So after that, next thing you want to do is the acronym challenge. The acronym challenge. Now, before I do the acronym challenge, I got to do my standard verbiage. Help control the acronym population. Don't forget to spay or neuter your acronyms. Okay? So what is the acronym for this week? The acronym for this week is CBS. CBS. That's the acronym for this week. I'll give you a second to try to answer that. I will give you a hint. No, it's not FTC. It's CBS. CBS. Okay. I will give you a hint. It is from the fire stopping section of the ITSA manual. Wolfpack, welcome back. Frank Jr., welcome back. So somebody tell me, what does CBS mean? I got a set of stickers for the first person who gets this correct. A set of stickers. Oh, there it is right there. Core bore seal. Very good. Cable Beaver. Cable Beaver, message me your address and you're going to get 3 stickers, my friend. Core bore seal is what it stands for. Very, very good. Yes. So what is a core bore seal? So when you think about floors in multi-story office buildings, sometimes they have a hole drilled through the concrete. That's called a core bore. And if fire happens in the floor underneath, the smoke, the heat, the flame can all get up to the floor above it and cause problems for the people above it. So a core bore seal is a device that you put in the core bore that fire stop seals it so smoke, heat, and toxic off gases can't go to the floor above it. That's what CBS stands for. Somebody in the TikTok channel said Canadian Broadcasting Service. Yeah, no, has nothing to do with fire stopping. Nothing to do with fire stopping. So next is the motivational minute. The motivational minute. I like this one. You can never cross an ocean until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. You can never cross an ocean until you have the courage to lose the sight of the shore. And fear holds us back because we're afraid of the unknown. Right? We're afraid because we're not good test takers. We're afraid because of, that girl might not like us or that guy might not like us, right? Or, you're afraid for that certification because you're afraid you might not get it. Fear holds us back, and you just got to do it. Just got to do it, right? Before we get on with the questions, a couple things I want to cover real quick. Did you catch last Monday's show, the one I just published a few days ago? I had Jake Jones and I had Brian Teague from Senco on there. And we had a whole section about fiber optic cleaning. It was a 2-part series. So last Monday was the first part. And then this one, next Monday, will be the second part of that series, right? So there you go. So let me see, what's this? My job is an RCDD for O&M with ISP within NCR for DoD under JSP division. Very good, Daryl. Glad to have you in the house. Always glad to have a fellow RCDD in the house. Always glad to have that. Also, this next Thursday night, I am doing an after hours live stream. I am. But it's going to be a little different. It's not going to be a question show. I'm bringing on 3 or 4 guests, and it's going to be an RCDD study roundtable. RCDD study roundtable. So I've got several people that I know that are studying hard for their RCDD because they're in my study group and I know them through personal life. And I'm going to ask them questions like, what made you decide to pursue your RCDD? How much time are you dedicating to that pursuit? What's the biggest hurdle that you're having to overcome? Because when you decide to become an RCDD and study for it, it's like a second full-time job studying for that RCDD. I'm going to ask my guests when they come on next week, what methods work for them? What methods don't work? And what online resources do they find helps them the most? And then what are they going to do once they get their RCDD? So make sure you tune in next Thursday night for the RCDD Study Roundtable, where we talk about tips and stuff to help you study for your RCDD test. Even if you're not studying for your RCDD test, if you're studying for the installer copper, installer fiber, the technician, these will all be good tips to help you go through those as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. I didn't see anything in the TikTok box. I didn't see anything in the chat box. So let's go to the first question. And this first question actually and this is actually a good question, a really good question. And the reason it's a good question is because a lot of people don't know how to do this, right? So here is the question, right? Here is the question. And that's what you see on the screen is just the abbreviated version. But basically, the guy asked me, and it was Jackson. He sent me a message on LinkedIn. He says, I have a new customer that their cable plant and termination fields are pretty old. And most of the termination blocks are 66 blocks that were installed over 2 decades ago. 2 decades ago. And when they were originally labeled, they were labeled with Sharpies. But because they were labeled 2 decades ago, it's hard to remove that old labeling. Any ideas on how to remove that labels? Now, what he's talking about is on 66 blocks, we used to use a thin Sharpie to write, cable numbers and extensions and phone numbers on the side, on those little tabs on the blocks. And if they sat on there for years, sometimes it would get hard to remove them. So here are some things I really want to cover first. First off, is just so make sure I say this to everybody, you really shouldn't be using 66 blocks. Okay, sorry. You really should be using Sharpies. Sorry, you really shouldn't be using Sharpies. You should be using a machine-generated label. Okay, a machine-generated label. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to have to steal that one. Hold on 1 second there. So, but with 66 blocks, that's not really possible. So my first tip is, and somebody's already guessed it in TikTok, fingernail polish remover. Fingernail polish remover. It's really good at doing this. Problem with fingernail polish remover is the odor can be obnoxious to some people. And people start asking, why do you have fingernail polish remover in your tool bag, right? Now, somebody from TikTok suggests the black rubber handle on the Klein screwdriver. The black rubber handle on the screwdriver. Thank you, Daryl, for that. That's actually a good one. I didn't have that one. The next one I have is if you're in a building that, a dry erase marker. That's what I meant. A dry erase marker. So, the kind of markers for the whiteboards where you can write stuff and then you can wipe them off. If you take that dry erase marker and you kind of scribble back and forth over top the old label and then take a towel, at times I'll take it right off, right? That'll take it right off. And then the other method is if you're doing this in an office building and there's a conference room that has a whiteboard, go check to see if they have the spray bottle that they use to spray on the wipe off all the old dry erase stuff. If they do, you can use that as well, right? So somebody pointed out in TikTok that acetone is the active ingredient in fingernail polish, which is really, really good for removing Sharpies off of blocks, especially the old 66 blocks, which may have been around for a long period of time. Now let's go to question number 2. Remember, put your questions in the chat box. So if I have time, we'll get to it. Now this question came from my wife's keeper 1002 on TikTok. I did a post, and I don't remember what I did the post about. I said something about Bixie, and then he goes, "What's Bixie?" And the person wasn't in low voltage, so he asked, "What is a cross connect field?" What is a cross connect field? So if you look up the term cross connect field in the Bixie terminology handbook or the glossary section of the standards, it's basically going to tell you that it's a connection scheme between 2 cables or 2 subsystems and an equipment patch cord or jumpers attaching to connecting hardware on the end. Now, there's several types of cross-connect fields, and I'm only going to list just a few of them. This is by no stretch of the imagination an entire complete list, okay? One of the most common ones you're going to see cross-connect fields is when you go cross-connects between subsystems. Now, remember, we're allowed to have 3 subsystems in the structured cable plan. Subsystem 1, Subsystem 2, and Subsystem 3. Subsystem 1 is the cable that goes from that connector on that faceplate to the patch panel, the 110 block, the BIX blocks in the telecom room. Actually, that's actually called the horizontal cross connect. That's subsystem 1, also commonly called the horizontal cabling. All right, so now when you get that cable into the telecom room, let's say if it's a data cable, well, you got to connect it to a switch. That's a cross connect field, right? Subsystem, you might be cross connecting to subsystem 2, the backbone that goes to another closet on the floor. That's what subsystem 2 is. It's the cable that goes from the horizontal cross connect to the intermediate cross connect. So you'll have 2 blocks together, and then you'll cross connect them either with jumper wires or 110 patch cords, depending on what kind of termination blocks it is that you're using. And then subsystem 3, the intermediate cross connect to the main cross connect. Another example of a cross connect field is, I kind of already touched base on this, when you run that Ethernet cable to that dropout on the floor for that office, it comes in and it lands on a patch panel. And then you take a patch cord, or actually we call them equipment cords, and then you plug them into a port on the switch. That is a cross connect field. It's the patch panel and the switch itself. Right? Another example of a cross-connect field is an old telephony example, right? A telephony example. So with telephony, with your older phone systems, you're going to run a horizontal cable to your telephone out on the floor. It's going to terminate on a block, right? Now that block can be a 110 block. It can be a 66 block, like what's his name said he had, or Biggs blocks, right? And then when we install the telephone switch, the PBX or the KSU, PBX stands for Private Branch Exchange, KSU stands for Key Server Unit, Key Service Unit, Key Server Unit, Key Service Unit. I don't remember off the top of my head. So we got to get the dial tone out of that switch. So they make these things called switch tails, right? Switch tails have a connector on one side that plugs into the switch. It's got a piece of cable attached to it. And on the other end of the cable, there's nothing. You actually terminate it on a block. So you'll terminate that switch tail on a block. You got your horizontal cables terminating on another block. Well, now you got to make that final connection between the two, because on this block where the switch comes out, that's where you're going to find. Isn't that what I said? Somebody says I thought Private Branch Exchange. I thought that's what I said. Sometimes my brain says one thing and my mouth says something different. PBX does stand for Private Branch Exchange. So if I said something wrong earlier, you caught me. Oops. Happens sometimes, right? It just does. So now we got to get that connection, that extension to show on that horizontal cable, right? So you're going to run a cross connect cable. Cross connect. It could be 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, 4 pair. Some they make the 110 cords that do it as well. So what you're doing is you're making that extension show up on that phone. Okay, that is also called a cross connect field. Cross connect field. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's go to the next question. This is question number 3. Question number 3. And this comes from Logan via email. And Logan said, again, you see on the screen, you see the short version of this. His email said, Chuck, I'm an electrician who's working for a company that does both low voltage and electrical cabling. And I hear the guys use terms like shiners and knuckles. What are they? Sometimes I feel like you guys make up your own language. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth, right? So let's talk about them, right? Now, before we talk about what a shiner is and what a knuckle is, your objective as an installer while you're putting cable in, your objective is to maintain the factory pair twist configuration as close as you can get it to the way that it came in its pristine condition from the factory. Okay, that's why we have rules in there for untwisting, right? Untwisting. But you don't want to have any nicks or any shiners or any knuckles. So what is a shiner? So a shiner is an old telephony term, and it used to happen when technicians. Hey, in the comment section, tell me, do you prefer to strip cable with your snips or a cable stripper? Let me know in the chat box. Do you prefer to strip with the snips or the cable strippers? So the shiner comes from the old Ma Bell guys. They used to use their snips, and they would take their snips, they would open them up, they would put the cable in, lightly scar it, they would bend it, pull it off, and then what would happen is if you dug too deep with your snips, it would actually scar one of the conductors. Now, a lot of times you wouldn't be able to see them. So, but if you took a flashlight and you shined it at the conductors, the copper would reflect back at you. That's called a shiner. Now, why is a shiner bad? Bad for several reasons. One, the signal travels on the outside of the copper conductor. It's called the skin effect, right? And now you're removing the dielectric from a small piece of that. But more importantly, if you've nicked that copper conductor, when you go to put it in the jack, right, there's a chance that it might break. And it never breaks when you're terminating it. It always breaks when you screw that faceplate to the wall. And then when you go to test the cable, it shows up as got it open on one of the pairs. So that's a shiner, right? Now, the best practice that they told us to do is if you want to use your snips, is discard the conductor, pull off the jacket. There's a what's called a rip cord inside of it. Take that rip cord, pull it down the side, peel back the jacket, cut off the excess, and then cut off the excess rip cord. That's the way we're supposed to do it. Right? Now, those who know me in real life, you know I'm an instructor. I'm a teacher. And I teach classes. And I always ask research questions in my classes. And I always ask this question, do you prefer snips? Do you prefer scissors? And I have found that by far the majority of the people like to use their snips. I'd say by almost probably 3 to 1, right? Maybe even 4 to 1, right? They prefer to use their snips over cable strippers. So that's what a snip is. Now let's talk about what a knuckle is. Now a knuckle is a little bit different. So a knuckle means that you've got um, a 90-degree bend in one of the conductors, and it's going to go right back across the other conductor that it's a pair with. Now I'm going to hold this up to both cameras so you can see it, right? So there's if you notice on that's got a 90-degree bend, if I can get it to focus on that, okay? And here I'll show it to my TikTok peeps. See how it's got that 90-degree bend? That's called a knuckle. Now remember I told you, your goal is to keep that as pristine as condition as possible. Pristine condition as possible. That's what a knuckle is. That's what a shiner is. Okay. Let's go on to the next question. And this is also another great question. I got asked a lot of great questions this week. So this question is from Sky, and she sent this to me via Instagram. Hey, did you like my new shirt? Wire Monkey. Yes. How can you tell when to use plenum cable versus riser cable? Now, so I have a couple of responses here for this. Number one, if it was a formal bid, make sure you read your scope of work, look at the bill of materials, and follow what it says. Okay? That doesn't mean it can't be a mistake, but 99% of the time it'll be right. Right? And if it's wrong, you did what you were told to do. So it's not really your fault, is it? But there's still a chance that it might get done wrong because estimators do make mistakes. They do. Now, first, let's talk about what is a plenum. A plenum is any compartment or chamber that's basically used to move air within the building. So for the HVAC system, that's what a plenum space is. Now, the most common plenum space that you're going to run into is typically the space above the ceiling. Now, if you walk around on the floor and every once in a while you're looking up the ceiling, and every once in a while you see that plastic grate and you can see through the grate into the ceiling, that's telling you it's a plenum rated ceiling because it pulls the air from the room into the ceiling and then it sucks that air back to the HVAC room. That sucks the air in, filters out the dust, dirt, and debris, and then sends that cold air back out and through. So that's one way you can tell if it's a plenum rated ceiling. Now that's not the only, there's other plenum rated areas. For example, the area underneath of a data center floor can be rated as a plenum space. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is. You just got to be careful with that. So, if you don't know how, if you're putting cable and let's say the ceiling's not in yet, right? Okay, if it's a new construction site, refer to the drawings, right? Go find the HVAC contractor, ask to look at his prints, or ask them. They'll tell you. They'll tell you whether it's plenum or not, right? Look at those prints, and that'll tell you. Now, in an occupied space, what you might want to do is ask the customer, do you still have the drawings? Or you could also go ask the building engineer. Sometimes they'll be able to help you as well. Now, if it's a new construction site and you can't find the HVAC contractor, let's say they're not on site that week, you can go ask the GC. They'll be able to tell you if the ceilings are plenum or not. Whichever method that you use, document it. Because pro tip number one, you know me, I got a list of 146 pro tips on my website. And pro tip number one is document, and document. So always document it, especially if you're not sure. If you're not sure and you got to get this job done, use plenum cable. But be very careful with that because a couple of reasons. Number one, if it's a plenum rated area, you're using the right kind of cable. If it's a riser rated area, well, you're exceeding the code book. And it is okay to make the building safer. It is allowed to make the building safer. Now, I suggest, if you're not that high up the food chain, before you use plenum cables, make a phone call, talk to your project manager, talk to the customer, and ask them if you can swap out or if you can use plenum rated cable. Okay, because the reason you want to ask is because plenum cable costs more than riser rated cable. So there's a cost impact there. And make sure you document whatever decision you decide to go with. Now, when you're looking at the cable, how do you know if a cable's plenum or riser rated? So there's lots of different markings that are listed in the NEC, but a plenum rated cable will have a CMP on it. CMP, Communications Plenum. Okay. A riser rated cable will have CMR. The R stands for riser. That's how you tell if the cable is plenum or riser rated. Now make sure that you also, just for those who don't know, a riser rated cable is basically a cable that runs between vertical shafts when it penetrates one or more floors. Also used in conduits sometimes if the conduit is continuous all the way. So that's what that is. Now let's move on to the next question. This one actually shifts a little bit from installation more towards project management. And this one comes from Ella. Ella sent me this via an email. And Ella says, what is a PMBOK? PMBOK. 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 I was recently promoted to a junior project manager. Congratulations on your promotion. I was promoted to a junior project manager, and my PM says that I need to get and read this book. What is it, and where can I get it? I don't know why you didn't ask your project manager. If they're recommending you should read it, they should know. But anyways, for those who don't know, PMBOK, PMBOK, stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. It's a book sold by the Project Management Institute, the PMI. Now, PMI defines the PMBOK as the entire collection of processes and best practice terminologies, guidelines that are accepted as standard within the project management industry. So what is PMI, Project Management Institute? Project Management Institute is an organization much like Bixby is. It's a membership organization. They have certifications like the Pmp certification that you can get. They have networking events and local chapters. So a lot of people who are following PMI are trying to get their PMP if they don't already have. PMP stands for Project Management Professional, right? Now, the PMP certification is a really great certification to have, especially if you want to be a project manager no matter what industry you go in. But when you get your PMP certification, you're really more like a general practitioner. You're like the regular doctor that you go to and see when for your yearly checkups, right? If you really want to be successful, then you're going to want to get the Bixby Project Management Manual, right? And you want to get certified, get the RTPM, the Registered Telecommunications Project Management Certification. Get the book, read the book, take the class. Chris Hobbs does a great job teaching that class. I've never taken the class, but I know people who have taken that class, and they have all reported back great things about how Christopher Hobbs is a really great instructor. And it's fine-tuned to our industry. Fine-tuned to our industry. So that's like going to a specialist. Like, so if you got shoulder pains, you might want to go to an orthopedist. Well, that RTPM is the specialist. That project management certification is geared right for our industry. Right for our industry. So that's why I like the RTPM a little bit better than I like the PMP certification. Alrighty, let's go to the next question. We're coming up on 30 minutes here soon. And the person who has this question, I got the feeling from reading the question that they're kind of a new installer, right? They said, recently found your podcast and it's helped me out a lot. Why can't I use the termination tool that comes in the packet of the jacks? Why do I have to buy a punch tool? They're expensive. Now, the only packet of jacks that I'm aware of, there might be more out there. And if you know of one, let me know. But the only packet of jackets that comes with the disposable insertion one are the ones you buy from the big box stores. If you're a professional, you should be getting your stuff from distribution. And I say this working for a manufacturer because we used to sell to the big box stores, right? And I'm not saying that the jacks are bad per se, although we could have a whole different show about that. But that disposable insertion thing, they bend, they break, they mess up. They don't last, right? If you decide to stay in this industry, go buy a 110 punch tool, right? if you buy if you decide to make this your industry, spend a little bit of money. A good 110 punch tool with a 110 blade is going to cost you 70, $100, something like that, right? Matter of fact, I bought one when I first got in this industry 40 plus years ago, and I spent money on it. And I gave it to my brother when he came into the industry, and he still has it. 40 years old. 40 years old. So if you decide to be in this industry, get a good punch tool. You know what? Here, I just thought of this. Send me an email with your name and address, Jordan, because you sent me this on TikTok. So direct message me. Send me your address. I will send you a free punch tool and blade if you tell me you decide to stay in this industry. I will give you one because I'm a firm believer in setting up people for success in this industry. All right. So that was all the questions I had submitted ahead of time. Let's see what other questions we have on here. Nolan was in the house. Hello, Nolan. Glad to see you back, my friend. This here was Pete, RCDD, isopropyl alcohol, talking about how to strip the labels off of the 66 blocks. Gary suggests using whiteout for removing the labels from that. I don't know if I'm a big fan of whiteout, though. I'm not a big fan of that. Nolan says, cherry acetone or isopropyl in your kit. Absolutely. Let me see. So people say they were voting in their votes. So they like the strips. Shiners cause opens. I don't see any questions though. Siemens. Let's read this. Siemens has a term tool. Siemens has a term tool for the cable in their packages. Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that. So very good. So there we go. We're at our 30 minutes. Make sure you come back next Thursday night because we're having a special RCDD study roundtable where I'm bringing in 3 people who are studying for the RCDD, and we're going to talk about why you should do it, what works for them, and because you really want to study and get your next level certification. It may not be an RCDD. You may not be up to that level yet. Maybe it's the technician. Maybe it's the installer fiber, right? But these study tips and stuff that we're going to go through will help you as well. Now, till next time, everybody, remember,